Awesome. So guys, as you all know, this is a panel focused on all the layer twos, and like I think it's great to be here and get different perspectives. So I think focus today is enterprises, and I just want to like get a sense from like everyone here. How have the last like 12 to 18 months been on this front, right? Like what is happening with enterprises? What kind of like traction are you seeing? What is going on? Just tell us. Like, Gan, do you want to open?
Sure. Happy to go on this first. I would say, like, from the last 12 to 18 months, what we have been observing at Starknet is that there are a couple of things that have improved, right? I think the first thing being the software itself. You can see that the TPS is, able to reach like 1,000 plus, even if it's a bit theoretical at this point. At least 887 was, one of the top that we were able to reach. So software improved drastically, right? Which plays a major factor in scalability and enterprises finding L2s lucrative for whatever it is that their use case might be. And the second thing that I feel that has changed is that us as I think as Web3 as a whole have realized that we do need to push for more entrepreneurial talent to come and build scalable products. And because our viewpoint on this has changed, it has had a trickle effect on enterprises as well. So they are also, because we are starting to take us seriously in terms of, having more entrepreneurs come and build, people come and build products for scale, people actually wanting to build products with real GTM. That's why I think enterprises are also starting to look at, like if these are the products that could be built, if these are the use cases that could be built and they have a real GTM, they have the ability to acquire users, not just crypto users, but even non-native crypto users, right? And I think this has shifted that focus as well. Like this has brought us into the limelight that enterprises feel now that, there are real use cases with GTM that we could use. And the third is again, I think a combination of one and two, which is crypto in itself. People have realized that they have to build products that are usable. And I think 18 months ago, you wouldn't find that many products that have account abstraction, that have Google sign-in, that have social sign-in and things like that, right? But now they exist. So it is much easier for enterprises to come and integrate us or any of the Web3 tech without friction. And I think these three factors, I feel like these three major changes have been, some sort of factor for enterprises to start looking at us to see what they would like to do. But feels like, of course, there's a lot more work to do in that.
Awesome. Ronak, what do you think about this?
Yeah, for us, it's been like a roller coaster for past couple of months, I would say like 12 to 18 months, wherein we launched a joint venture with Sony for Soneium. Then we also announced our tokenized asset platform and also a stablecoin venture with SBI. Both of them have been into the Web3 space for quite some time and are doing wonders there. And in terms of the stuff on why exactly layer 2s are becoming like the end solution for enterprises, I would say like the usual stuff is fine, right? Scalability, security, low cost transaction, fast settlement and those kind of things are crucial. But one thing that I've seen like layer 2s provide is the flexibility, wherein these kind of enterprises could build their own specific use cases and personalized their own specific chains, right? So it gives them the first-hand approach on certain things. So yeah, I see like flexibility is one of the things which is a game changer for enterprises.
Very interesting. And Aditi, do you agree, disagree, have something else to say?
No, absolutely agree. I think what has happened in the last 18 months is L2s have acquired this whole identity of going from an experiment to a proper production, a technical production house of sorts, right? I mean, before that, okay, we had a few things, but then it'll be like, come set up your own nodes. Now the ecosystems are a lot richer. Every ecosystem, every L2 ecosystem will have sequencers, oracles, infra, auditors, all of that, which every single point, if you see, is a requirement for an enterprise that, hey, I have very custom needs because I'm not building something just from day one today. I have existing offerings and I want someone to be able to customize and cater to that. I don't operate in Web3. I need data security for my customers. So L2s have actually advanced to that level where they have been able to provide on all of these things. One thing that I think also has shifted from the enterprise narrative as well, mainly the Web2 ones that you see, with ETFs coming in and everything, sort of a spotlight came into this space that, hey, okay, there's a lot of liquidity here. We should look at it. We might want to consider tokenizing stocks.
Yeah.
So it was both ways. L2s got better, enterprise interest got better, and then in all of this process, the whole social mindshare that was created, the kind of outreach that was worked upon by L2 ecosystems, that improved as well. So I think everyone just matured more and reached a point where we can work together.
Awesome. I think, like, I agree with what you're saying. One of the biggest GTM factors for enterprise, which we've all experienced, is like stablecoins, right? And that makes a lot of sense from owning your like distribution and again the entire value chain for what you're doing. So that is like personally very fascinating to me, and I think right now it's dollar-denominated stablecoins that are obviously like taking the cake. But let's see how multi-currency stuff plays out. But I think is like very intuitive and like a good place to start off. But let's kind of get a little deeper into the nuances for each of the ecosystems, right? And Aditi, like, let's start with you. So basically, like we've seen, obviously Arbitrum is grown a lot in terms of metrics and developer adoption, right? No question about that. But like, what are you seeing from an enterprise perspective in terms of what are they interested in? What are these use cases that people are like coming through with on Arbitrum?
Got it. Thank you for that question, Ahaan. And I mean, I have a view from, because I look at the India region for Arbitrum, I have a view there. And then when I look at Arbitrum as a member of that ecosystem, there's a view there. What we have seen, and I think one of the biggest stories, L2 enterprise marriage story that has come out this year has to be Robinhood. Them tokenizing stocks on Arbitrum, also announcing to build their chain as an orbit chain on Arbitrum. I think the requirement most importantly, which is also obvious for Arbitrum, comes in finance, DeFi, liquidity. I mean, it has always had that kind of deep liquidity in the Ethereum ecosystem that, hey, when a Robinhood looks at this, I'm like, hey, I'll have 10 million at least moving in, the kind of 10 million money moving in this much amount of time. Now, can I work with an ecosystem that can handle that, that can provide that, that can accommodate that? So I think that's one use case across the board that we've seen, whether it's India, whether it's Europe, whether it's global. Second thing is, for enterprises, I think, which has really grown is stable coins outside of just this payments and DeFi narrative as well. Third thing would be gaming. Gaming enterprises, Ubisoft is trying things out there already on Arbitrum and all, because of the kind of specific tech stacks that we have, whether it's Orbit, which is for high throughput, or Nova, which is actually cost efficient for kind of a gaming and social platform. So they can come, they can build on it and say that, okay, yes, I have to move and I have to record every single movement that a person's doing on a game. I already have a reputation for a good game. Now I need to work with an ecosystem which can help me maintain that and even grow better. Third thing would be a lot of loyalty. It was surprising for me as well to see, oh wow, loyalty for Arbitrum. That's never really been so much of a dialogue, but maybe just on socials. And one example, if I have to put here, is Blackbird. The way that they have been able to do it. I mean, I have read things on socials, known people who are using their loyalty program without even having an ounce of an idea that, okay, there is a blockchain stack, there is Arbitrum stack behind it. So I think these are key things that I would like to highlight. Of course, there are things on RWA and Deep Inside as well, which are very important verticals for us from an India POV. But I think that's still a story that everybody is starting on right now.
No, 100%. And like, same question to you, Ronak. Like, what are you seeing? I know obviously Sony is an enterprise. It's a very huge enterprise. What use cases are relevant to Soneium from that perspective?
For us as Soneium, there are a couple of use cases which are very prominent. Considering the background of Sony into entertainment space, we are seeing a lot of ongoing production stuff regarding the IP rights and ownership, those kind of things. Then we are also seeing the on-chain content creation, which is more towards like social-fi kind of a thing, right? So those things are ongoing along with the Soneium overall ecosystem. But apart from that, we are also seeing a lot of fintech startups and fintech brands coming together in collaboration with Soneium, wherein Sony Bank is doing their own POCs on top of Soneium and a couple of other chains out there. Then we are also seeing tokenized asset platform coming in from SBI, which has like around a couple of $1 billion worth of assets under management. Daily traders are somewhere around 14 million users and those kind of things. So I would say like fintech and entertainment are the clear focuses for Soneium.
Awesome, awesome. Gyan, what do you have to say?
So for us, I think one of the bigger things that happened to Starknet this year was the announcement on Bitcoin that we are also going to be rolling up eventually, hopefully, on Bitcoin. A lot of technical changes there from the Bitcoin community for this to happen. But I think that has generated a huge, large-scale interest in, I wouldn't say enterprises, but people who are enterprises who want to invest in Bitcoin or who want to acquire Bitcoin or who have acquired Bitcoin and want to invest their acquired Bitcoin in some, strategies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for example, for the Bitcoin announcement, we have been working with RE7 Capital. We have a few
Nice.
interesting projects that have, taken up shape, some bridges and, Extended has been doing incredible. So definitely that, I think a lot of impact around that, and being able to settle on both Ethereum and Bitcoin is truly would be, I think, an amazing technical achievement. Not just that, but a good story to tell, right? So a lot of interest in that space. We have had a lot of bigger gaming stuff happen. Gaming has been a big narrative on Starknet for a really long time. We have the cartridge controller, for example, that allows you to sign in using passkey. So you could just go and play a mobile game, You could just have like a Google sign-in and things like that. Other than that, the third thing which was surprising to me that we have seen picking up is consumer apps. We do have a few Indian teams, in fact, that are building really cool consumer apps. Habit tracker, I think fitness app, and there is stuff around that. We have a very popular consumer app called Focus Tree. Again,
Yes.
as Aditi pointed out, it is a very similar kind of app where people don't know that there is actually an underlying blockchain. I think that would be the narrative going forward as well. And then we generally have the payments. I think everyone has some foot in payments, because payments is such a huge space. And then, as you mentioned, there is a lot of stablecoin growth, non-USD based stablecoin growth that is coming up, and things like that. So for sure, some payments stuff happening, but. Very interesting. I think major focus has been on the Bitcoin announcement that happened quite recently. And then, of course, I think just one last thing that we are seeing picking up is the privacy narrative. You can see that it's been going off like blasting crazy on Twitter. Suddenly, everyone wants everything to be private without really understanding the implications of it. But because we are a ZK-based chain, we are already poised to have some level of privacy, not total privacy, and then there is more nuances to privacy as well, confidentiality, anonymity, and all of that. But the narrative is picking up, and I'm sure that there is a lot of enterprise level or even government level interest in trying to figure out how best can privacy, be integrated into the existing system. So that's something that definitely we are going to be watching out for in 2026.
Very cool. So I see this pattern. It's like payments. There is niche use cases like privacy, deepen, and of course like entertainment, media. Like these are, I think, a pattern where I think it's more about like how can all of us figure out ways to plug into enterprises and the way that they operate with the use case. For us also, just on payments, I think one thing which we did is integrate base pay with Shopify. So that's like a new checkout experience that we're trying to power, and it helps merchants, right? Because we all know merchants face very high fees, and integrating USDC there just saves the settlement and transaction costs there. So I feel like I'm personally really excited to see how the payments piece plays out. But I think brings me to my next question is like, what do you guys think is like a blocker in terms of enterprise adoption, right? Like, where are we struggling, or what could be better? Just what's a blocker for us as like L2s today in going to like the next level of scale? And anybody can like go for it.
Yeah, maybe I can jump on it.
Yeah.
So for us, like the major blockers that we have been seeing in the space wherein enterprise is planning to jump into layer 2s is definitely like the market sentiment, wherein enterprises think of a way that, yes, it's bull market, let's jump in this space and build the next big thing as an opportunity. But when things go on a different way, wherein downturns comes in towards like more bear market, then it's like, okay, let's take a step back and figure out like what's exactly is happening, right? And for us, we are seeing like the first-hand approach in terms of how exactly this is being addressed, wherein most of the enterprises are now preferring the route of joint ventures, wherein one brings the traditional route and the distribution for the space, and second brings the finesse of Web3 and how exactly tech could be built. So I'm feeling like market sentiment is the blocker, but it's being addressed by having those kind of joint ventures, which eventually helps them to move from experimentation to production.
Yeah. Awesome.
Honestly, I think, I mean, just to joke about it, I think Vitalik going ahead and saying, oh, you can just build on an L1, that's a bit of a blocker for enterprises coming to L2s. But all in humor there, I agree with Ronak when he says market sentiment is there because, see, there's a certain predictability that enterprises like. Oh, I wake up, I do my business, people buy things, we all go to bed. That's the story of it. But with the market sentiment that's out there, it's always a question, and it's not a question just for L2s, it's for us as an industry. Right now, Web3 is still finance. We haven't become a tech stack as such. We are a finance subset, not a tech industry subset. We are closer to what finance is than to what SaaS is at this point. So I think those nuances still need to be developed. It's not really that, oh, there's a blocker right away that we need to solve. It's just that this is a whole thing that's starting now. This conversation has started before as well, but at that point, the chains weren't ready. Right now, when Arbitrum's talking to an enterprise, we can actually say that, hey, you need 1, 2, 3, you need auditability, you need finality, you need security, you need be able to customize your product. All of this, we have a product for it. So now an enterprise can go and work with one ecosystem. Before that, it was super distributed also, which in some ways is still a blocker in the industry. So I think we're at that stage where we don't say that, hey, we've like just bumped into a stop at this point. We keep improving, doing better, creating more products. If a project comes out there, if a organization like Franklin Templeton comes and they're like, I have this use case. Right now, we're not at that stage where we have standards and ready-made offerings as such, which is great because they want customization as well. But I think having those bases and those standards would really take us, plus we're still early. I mean, we will say it for a decade at least, but we are early in this enterprise bit. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I have an interesting thing that I remember about this whole enterprises kind of wanting to, come on this side, right? So I've been in the space for a while, and in 2017, 2018, being part of Ethereum Enterprise Alliance or, being part of these IBM groups that are building for supply chain, it was all the rage, trust me, So I feel like so there has been a huge journey in terms of really trying to figure out where blockchains as a software fit into solutions, right? So, and that fit they haven't found. So, simply put, there is no PMF for enterprises to use blockchains today, right? There is no product market fit. And the second is, from a user base perspective, the market is, so apart from trading, right? Trading, just number of traders and trading volume and all of that, and assets, of course, leading up to $1 trillion, etc. Anything else which is a significant user base is quite insignificant from an enterprise standpoint, right? Like a million users, it means nothing to them. Right? If an app has 1 million users, We will post on Twitter, we will dance around it, we will have people do content, I don't know by how many KOLs, but it's nothing for enterprises, right?
Yeah.
They deal in volumes that are 100x bigger.
Yes.
So I feel like that's, just that, and then of course, double clicking on what Aditi shared earlier as well, that apart from a finance sort of trading industry, we haven't really come out and proven that these are some of the very significant use cases where blockchains can solve a problem for you as an enterprise. And I think once we crack that is when we can kind of see that. So even right now, I feel like all of the enterprise collaborations are more of an experiment.
Right.
That let's try this, let's run this, let's see what happens. Is there a market for this? And I am hoping that one of these do succeed, and then we can see that sort of upward trend going from there.
Definitely. I think valid point by Gyan, which is like PMF is important and you can't force fit that. It's more like either enterprises feel that pain point and then they come. I also feel personally though, like a big blocker generally experienced by all of us is the state of regulations, right? And the understanding of regulators. Obviously, like regulators are important, their work is very important in making sure that guardrails. But in terms of like, I mean, shout out to Polygon for doing good work in verification for certificates and bringing like IRCTC tickets on chain. I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's again, you don't need to like understand the layer, you just need to understand what verification is and its importance there. So I think we need to do also a better job as an industry to present these use cases to these bodies that help form these standards and regulations. And yeah, I think, of course, when there's global tailwinds in terms of, for example, stable coins, again. So now government, state, national, very interested in like experimenting there and tokenizing assets, right? So it's then our job to, again, showcase with our respective like nuances what is working and how can we use that for growing the Indian economy, right? Because economic growth is every country's dream at the end of the day. So that's my perspective. And I think that brings us towards kind of the last segment, right? We're here now, we know the challenges, we know like, there's a lot of work to do. But like if you guys had to maybe give a directional sense, what do the next few years look like from an enterprise perspective? Where are we headed? Or at least what are you all excited about to kind of see come to fruition? Jan, do you want to go first?
Sure. For us, to be very honest, I haven't thought so deeply about it. So, it's going to be a very like on the spot, oh, this is what I'm thinking will happen kind of an answer.
Go for it.
But I feel like, I think there will be some level of finance x Web3. It feels like a very natural sort of collaboration to me. As you mentioned, could be potentially payments, remittances. I mean, there are these pain points, right? This is how Web3 kind of started. We started telling a story that, hey, these are some pain points that people across the globe face. They can't pay easily, they can't, remit faster and things like that. I think there will be a natural integration of companies like this. It will start with smaller startups, not enterprises right away, but once those integrations start showing more and more value to people using it, then I think enterprises will slowly start coming in. So that seems interesting. With gaming, we have been running that kind of, trying to work with enterprises, even Ubisoft as well. But I feel like it's a difficult industry to crack into, right? It's a very centralized industry at this point. Streaming and all of this, gaming, streaming, all of these put together, it's very individual heavy. It is very, organization heavy. So, but I think there is a space there as Web3 gaming becomes more popular. The games themselves have product market fit, then it is possible to, I think, for those enterprises to kind of come in. These two just feel like natural to me. With RWA, to be very honest, maybe commodities, but anything else like this real estate tokenization and all, I don't see it happening anytime soon, right? The legality around that is honestly so twisted. Even just the existing regulations around that is so twisted. And even that industry is not even matured digitally, first of all. So it's a lot of paperwork and stuff. So it's going to be a couple of years. But I am bullish for sure on some financial use cases, gaming. Me personally, I want, so larger, you don't see them as enterprises, but rather larger government bodies. I would think like UN and, you know, associated bodies that are doing policy, regulatory work, or just impact work on ground. They have a lot to gain from transparent systems like this. So I think once they understand what are some significant use cases there, perhaps there is a potential to do things at scale. But yeah, that's pretty much my thought.
Awesome, awesome. Ronak?
I think like speaking solely from the growth perspective, like technology will keep on evolving, that's for sure. But in terms of growth perspective, like these kind of enterprises have distribution channels. They have well-funded staff on their end to make sure that they could build up the tech experience which is as smooth as Web 2, which are like the applications that we use on the daily basis, right? So user experience is something that will keep on evolving. And I feel like one of the major advices for these enterprise should be like, don't jump into a chain just for the purpose of hype. Those numbers could be flashiest in the beginning, and yes, we all know that those numbers could be manipulated very heavily. So focus on a chain which is more towards like ecosystem cultivation and also towards the value of the community. So I feel like user experience is something which will be the key focus for these kind of enterprises going forward. And the advices would be like focus on a chain which is more towards value and community.
Aditi?
So, like Gnana, I was never the candidate who loved the, oh, where do you see yourself from now, 5 years from now person. I don't think this industry is like that, you know. I mean, 5 years down the line, what we were talking was completely different. We were all hating on banks. Banks are bad. That's why we build blockchain. But I think, first of all, the whole L1, L2, L9, L20 narrative will go away. Because right now, I see L2 is really, really coming up in terms of capability as to an L1 scale in itself. Like if I talk about Arbitrum, we call ourselves a digital sovereign nation because we are one. We know that, hey, in this, we have this sovereignty and this element of nation where we have everything within this ecosystem. So a lot of ecosystems will mature as complete packets of their own, having their own functionalities. That's one thing. Second thing is, I think there will be some very interesting competing projects, chains in itself maybe, coming from enterprises themselves, right? I mean, you see the entire Gemini story with ChatGPT. They are also studying right now. They are doing the experiments at the behest of blockchains that exist right now. Eventually, a Revolut will learn working with Uniswap Labs, or maybe a Robinhood would learn working with Arbitrum, that, hey, okay, this is what's really needed. Let's set up a team, get there. So I am like, with their experience, their distribution, and then that oncoming into blockchain would be very interesting use case. I mean, there's some very interesting things that I'm hoping and that I'm expecting and looking forward to coming in from Geo in itself.
Very interesting.
I think regulatory and government involvement will sort of shift, but it will still not satisfy consumers.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, there'll be some movement in taxes, but the privacy and the rigidity of how money movement is tracked might just increase. You know, the whole CBDC narrative might just come in where you're like, okay, yes, I now have a digital currency or a token on a blockchain, but the whole idea of where we started from might change. Where we get into very consumer-friendly industries, you know, consumer-first industries, EV, supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chains. I mean, those were one of the first few things that we talked about, kept talking about, supply chain. And to this date, I don't know where really we've worked out the whole supply chain bit, where the idea that everything's on the blockchain really suffices there. So I think now that we've reached there in principle, in practicality, we should get to some point. Maybe those will be the experiments 5 years down the line.
For sure. I mean, we're just at the end of our panel. Maybe we'll have a small Q&A. But I think what I'm personally really excited about is seeing treasury management and like how that plays out, because after DATs came in, a lot of like coins are on balance sheets for large like publicly listed companies, right? So which means it's a gateway to also exploring how do you manage your treasury and have crypto native DeFi yields that you can generate. And people are doing that, right? Even in India, like Jet King holds a lot of Bitcoin. It's like the equivalent of all these DATs that have come out. So I'm excited to see that use case. I think there's a lot of merit there. And it's easy for institutions to just like, where do I get the best yield from, right? The other, it's very early, is attribution for your data contribution. Very like by that I mean, for example, we know all models are trained on all of like the whole internet, right? But they've not, like these publishers have not gone rewarded for their contribution. So there are like, there's an open white space for like capturing like who has contributed, how has that resulted in value generated, and how can I reward that like newspaper or media channel, etc. Very early, I don't think there's like solid progress. I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. But that's personally very exciting. And with that, guys, I think we come to the end of our
Here,
panel.
something that none of us have really mentioned would be the role AI will play.
Absolutely.
I read that Anthropic article and I'm like, oh, beautiful. AI is creating these creating contracts, exploiting contracts. I can sit with a popcorn, watch this whole thing play out. Maybe 5 years down the line, that's what happens, you know? It'll
Yeah.
probably be our agents
Yeah.
in some format speaking on our behalf.
Yeah.
We won't have to travel all the way to Whitefield.
Star Wars, like just
But yeah,
holograms.
that's quite a real possibility.
Yeah. Awesome. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Any quick questions? Anybody? Go for it. Bunny, go for it.
Great panel, great insights. I love the honesty and everything. Just want to understand from a gaming point of view. So we are a 8-year-old gaming startup, but let's say if I'm pitching in Web3, what are the kind of support and native integration can Web3 offer right now? Because I've seen the gameplay is not that much as I would look in a normal gaming loop. And especially that goes with gaming loop and gaming mechanics and gameplay. So what are the kind of offerings Web3 has to offer in 2025, let's say end of 2025, among all the ecosystems, since you guys are heading ecosystems, so just want to understand that perspective, that where gaming is leading and how do you think it will evolve in the next 5 years?
I can share from my perspective very quickly because Starknet has been bullish on gaming for the last 2 years or since the beginning of time. I would say one of the biggest advantages of building your game in web or bringing your game, building, porting, whatever it is that you're planning, is the whole narrative of FOCG, right, which is fully on-chain gaming. So all of your elements are on-chain, right? So everything is transparent. You are able to kind of showcase what is happening. All your states are actually on-chain. All the state changes are on-chain. So everything is completely transparent. This is the big FOCG narrative that people are bringing from gaming, and this is how Web3 can be one of the biggest add-ons. But the thing is, with building FOCG is extremely difficult, right? And it is not been that scalable so far, even though there is a lot of infra that exists for it, right? So that has been one of the biggest problems, that the gaming experience sometimes goes down when you're trying to build something fully on-chain. So people are trying to do a compromise between a fully on-chain versus, so trying to build some hybrid stuff. And the second thing is gaming assets, right? So once your assets come on-chain, then you can build a marketplace around that to trade those assets and make sure that the assets are widely available. There is a larger market for those assets rather than just in-game. So for example, in a Web2 game, if you have a specific game, you can only buy the assets within the game. But once it is on-chain, it becomes more global, right? Anyone else who feels that a particular asset of any particular game, so I'm not a gamer, but let's say I feel like this particular kind of asset is becoming popular, I have access to buy it, hold it, price of that asset fluctuates and things like that. There is a combination of gaming x DeFi that you can play around with, right? These are the two big advantages that Web3 offers. The first one, which is FOCG, is more principle based. Do you want your game to be more transparent, less centralized, less owned by bigger organizations, etc.? Helps more indie gamers than, enterprises themselves. But some advantages potentially for enterprises as well if they want to move this route. And the second one is global availability of assets for sure. And then
Gyan, sorry, just to cut you off, almost out of time. Just pass it to Aditi. You have a final comment on this?
Yeah, I think when you ask for gaming support, I'll answer from an Arbitrum POV. We have Nova with any trust technology, which is a chain built in mind for gaming, which requires cost efficiency, which requires quick movements, swift movements in a games, all of that. Second thing is our own gaming venture fund. Understanding this space, the team realized that, hey, it is imperative at this point to become a VC of our own, because like how Gyan said, it's not the easiest space and we couldn't rely on that. So Arbitrum has a fund, in all ways and meanings, it's a VC fund properly. So that kind of support. With that comes experts. So for every field that we have now within our delegates and within the team, we have a sitting table of experts who can actually help you with any problems that you have. A big part of which has now become on-chain labs, led by AJ Warner, which derives insights from the market, goes ahead, builds it, or solves problems of projects that exist.
Awesome.
So I think these three things mainly cover what a gaming project would face, essentially.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. That's time, and we can just chat off the stage. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank
I
you
think
so much.
we'll all be around here if anyone has any questions. Just
and
find us
thank
in
you
the
so
crowd.
much.
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Ahaan and
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
IBW.
Cheers.